Another day, and we have another battery drain and charging test right here. So today I have got the Samsung Galaxy A72, the A52, A52 5G, Poco F3 5G, the Poco X3 Pro, Mi 11 Lite, and the Redmi Note 10 Pro. So all of you who were asking me why I haven't been doing the non-Samsung videos, this video is for all of you, and this is one of the most in-depth battery comparisons. So before I take you to the battery drain and the charging test, make sure that you have hit the subscribe button, and also if you find this video good enough, at some point make sure you hit the like button as well. So without wasting any further minute, let me quickly take you to the battery drain and the charging test right away. Okay, the test conditions first. Take a look at the temperatures right now. The Mi 11 Lite was just updated to its latest software version, so that's why it's on the high side right now, but it should come down in a bit. Now all these phones are running on the latest Android 11 themed by their respective UIs, and I did perform all the software updates as I just told you regarding the Mi 11 Lite as well. All the phones are charged up to 100% right now. Chargers are connected right now. Bluetooth is turned on all across. Volume is turned down. All phones are running on their respective high refresh rate as you can see on your screen. I set the brightness to max on all the phones, and I made a slight error here. Initially I dropped the A72's brightness bar to about 95%. I somehow mistakenly could not bring it to 100%, but I was quick enough to rectify this mistake before entering the third hour of this test. So I hope that you guys won't mind this. To keep this test fine and fair, I restarted all the phones, and at the same time I unplugged the chargers. As the phones restarted and all the apps were killed, I started off the test with the PUBG Mobile. On the Samsung phones, I had already set the graphics and frame rate to Smooth Ultra, and I applied the same settings on all the other phones too. Now as we proceed in this test, keep your eyes on the temperatures. There are multiple temperature checks throughout this video. The battery percentages will keep appearing on the top, and the specs of all these phones are right on your screen too. This is a really nice mix of mid-range and high-end CPUs going neck and neck, and also the fact that almost all these phones except for the Poco X3 Pro have the Super AMOLED or the AMOLED screens, and the best part is that their price bracket is somewhat similar. So if you are considering getting a new mid-range phone, you might be interested in one of these, and this test is more than enough for you. Not only it shows you the battery performance, but it also gives you an idea about the overall performance of all these handsets. Poco X3 Pro in this lot is producing a lot of heat. It's just heating more than it's supposed to. Extraordinary temperatures can be seen on the monitor. The other phones are producing the amount of heat they are supposed to produce in this stressful environment. Now also keep your eyes on the Poco F3. Look at that dim screen. That's an issue. This phone's brightness goes down on its own. It doesn't come back easily. The auto brightness on this phone is off and its brightness is set to high. Even then it dims on its own. It takes the time, comes back and goes back. And this keeps happening. This is crippled. The Poco F3's display might be very good on papers. It's an AMOLED screen with high refresh rate, but it has a fault, and Poco needs to fix this as soon as possible. There is no software update available which fixes this issue, and it isn't known so far if this is a software or the hardware issue. As you can see the temperature on all the Xiaomi, Poco and Redmi phones, the temperature is extraordinary on these phones, and after that we have high temperature on the A52 5G. In terms of temperature, the A72 and the A52 are the best performers in this particular test. As you can see, I played a handful of games on the phones, played YouTube video at 1080p at 60 frames per second for 1 hour, and I also used the Chrome browser, did a series of UFO tests, and after about 4 hours of this test, we have the Poco X3 Pro on the loose. The A52 5G is the second loser, Mi 11 Lite is the third loser, and the fourth loser is the Redmi Note 10 Pro. The A52 and Poco F3 are going almost neck and neck, and the A72 is maintaining its lead. I used the social media applications including Facebook and Instagram for half hour each. The social media apps on all the phones took the battery percentage down drastically. In between, I played another game before launching the Twitter, and at this stage I could see the batteries on all the phones losing ground. But the A72 is still maintaining a very healthy lead here. And just for your record, the A72 has a 5000 mAh battery, and we have a bigger battery inside the Redmi Note 10 Pro. To push things further, I launched the AnTuTu benchmark on all the phones. I am using a rather latest version of AnTuTu on the Poco X3 Pro, but this phone is already down to 10% battery, and I think the version won't make a difference here. The AnTuTu got stuck on Mi 11 Lite. I couldn't get it to work on this phone, and after about 15 minutes, we got the AnTuTu scores. Now pay attention to what I am about to tell you. Both the Poco X3 Pro and the Redmi Note 10 Pro perform the worst when throttled. You see the scores? Those are poor for both their chips. The X3 Pro should have posted a score of over 500k, and the Redmi Note 10 Pro of over 250k, and I had those scores before running this test, and on both the phones I am a bit disappointed. Anyways, I continued the test and launched the Twitter. While running the Twitter application in only about 6 hours and 11 minutes, the Poco X3 Pro took its last breath. This phone has a whopping 5000 mAh battery, a flagship chip, high refresh rate, but all of this is useless just because of that LCD panel. You should only pick this phone if it makes sense to you, even after watching this test. I mean, Redmi has launched a Note 10 Pro with an AMOLED panel. They could have used the same AMOLED panel on the Poco X3 Pro as well, but just to keep its price low while keeping its chipset high end, they had to go with the LCD panel, and this is not a good idea at all. After closing the apps and to end this battery drain test, I started recording a 4K at 30 frames per second video clip on all the phones. Now here, the Poco, Redmi and Mi phones have an advantage. They record a 4K at 30 frames per second video clip for about 5 to 10 minutes and stop automatically to prevent overheating, to save storage and probably to save the battery consumption. I repeat, this is an advantage for the phones, but disappointment for the users. On the other hand, Samsung phones have no 4K at 30 frames per second recording time limit. You can record for as long as you want. Anyways, the A52 5G died in exactly about 8 hours. I did not expect something better from this phone. It has high refresh rate and it has that Snapdragon 750 chipset too, which in my opinion is not very energy efficient. And the Redmi Note 10 Pro died in 8 hours and 1 minute. The next phone to die was the A52. It took 8 hours and 28 minutes to die. And right after 1 minute, the Poco F3 died too in 8 hours and 29 minutes. The A72 came out as a king. This phone remained on for another half hour. It took its last breath in the 3rd minute of the 10th hour. In my previous test, this phone lasted longer because the test conditions were different. Today, I recorded a 4K at 30 frames per second video clip to push things, and this phone still performed great. You have a very good idea about the battery, performance and throttle handling of these phones, and I will now move towards the battery charging test. This time I am going to use 25 watt chargers for all the Samsung phones, and all the Poco, Mi, Redmi phones are using their 33 watt chargers. The power source is going to remain the same. This time the Poco F3 was the first to hit 100% in 64 minutes. Mi 11 Lite has the smallest battery and it charged up quickly in only 68 minutes. 79 minutes to hit 100% for the Poco X3 Pro. A72's 5000 mAh battery hit 100% in 84 minutes. 88 minutes for the Redmi Note 10 Pro to hit 100%. And 90 minutes to hit 100% today for the A52 5G 25 watt charger and 4500 mAh battery, and the A52's 4500 mAh battery and 25 watt charger took about 104 minutes to hit 100%. And our test ends right here. And that's quite all with this battery drain and the charging test. I hope that you guys really liked and enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button, and if you loved it, please hit the subscribe button too. With that being said, I will now sign off and see you all in the next one.